Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marc Summers Unwraps. And today we're going to be talking to the very interesting and fun and famous Jason Mewes. He's going to talk about what it's like to be a Comic-Con celebrity.
Those have been so much fun because you go to this and you'll be in the green room and it's like Vincent D'Onofrio, you know, Danny Trejo, Bruce Campbell.
He's going to talk about overcoming addiction.
I'd be like, I have 6 months sober on the podcast, and then I'd be in Starbucks and someone would be like, man, I love the podcast.
Really?
How many months you have sober?
No
and I'd be like,
kidding.
9 months. And they'd be like, oh my God.
And he's going to talk about, are you ready for this? His Nutcracker performance.
They're thinking like I go in and do a couple moves, but it's like full on. I've been going in with her to rehearse, so 4 days a week I'm rehearsing.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to Marc Summers Unwraps. Oh, addiction and substance abuse problems. When I started the Comedy Store in the mid-'70s, it was pretty rampant. And yes, there was one person who I had to confront because chances are he would not still be around if somebody, be it me or somebody else, didn't confront him. It never goes well because the first thing is denial. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, I really don't need that. It's pretty frightening. And, you know, you have to make a decision. Do you constantly and keep going after them and pursuing it, or do you just throw your hands up and say, hey, it's your life? So it's a part of a friendship that's difficult but needs to be done. How do you take a first step to communicate? It goes back to every part of my life, and that's passion. How passionate are you to save this person's life? How important is this person to you? I think that's probably an easy question to answer. The fact that you are even concerned says that there's tremendous passion there, and you keep going after it. Now, chances are you may have to do it more than once, even to get it initiated. But here's the only advice I can give you. Don't give up. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Marc Summers Unwraps. A unique guest today. A unique guest because I'm going to reveal some information here. I am not a movie guy. I am a trivia guy, a comedy guy, and I don't go to a lot of films. And my wife will often say to me, you want to go to a movie? And if it's anything to do with fantasy, the answer is no. I've never seen Star Wars. I've never seen E.T. I like comedies. But, you know, I'm not grounded enough in the world of films. And then this is a democracy over here on Marc Summers Unwraps, and we have a great staff. And a name was brought up, and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not sure who that is. And everybody who works in this building has been going crazy that you're actually here. So, first of all, welcome, Jason Mewes. How are you?
Thank you. Very good. Very good.
How would you describe your life?
Oof, I don't know. Right now, I would just say filled with fatherhood. I mean, again, I feel like for the last, I mean, I have a daughter who's 8 and I have a son now who's 10 months old.
Oh my.
But it's just like, since I've had a kid, it seems like that is, you know, you hear people talk about like how it changes your life. It's in that. It really has been like right now I've been going to rehearsals. I don't do ballet, but my daughter's been doing ballet since she's 3. So for 5 years. And she's about to do the Nutcracker.
Oh my, that's huge.
And she's been rehearsing like 4 days a week. But they were like, hey, there's a couple dances in there. We have dancing dads. Do you want to be part of it? I'm like, sure. Thinking like I go in and do a couple moves. But it's like full on. I've been going in with her to rehearse. So 4 days a week I'm rehearsing like dance moves and stuff for this play. But again, it's fantastic. But
does it come easy? Do the dance moves come easy?
Not really. No, it really doesn't. Because again, I thought it was like, I feel like I got a little bit of moves, but not ballet. Like it's like 3 steps, turn, and there's like a whole choreographed like setup with a you know, a ballerina. I have to dance with the level 6 ballerina. But again, it's amazing because I get to sit and watch my daughter do her dances that she's doing and the other cast and stuff. But yeah, I feel like it's like at home, it's like I'm a dad and then I travel. I've been doing a lot of stand-up comedy. I've been doing, like I just got back from Indianapolis the week before that,
So
Chicago.
I'm from, where'd you play in Indy?
I was at... I'm going to get him confused because I was Zanies at one place in
Right.
Chicago or Helium Club, but I was in Indianapolis. And I wish I knew the town that I could tell you. And remember,
How'd it go?
Went really well. It went really well. It's like I usually fly in to where I'm going, and I have my Airbnb, and I'll like drive there, and then I usually stay and I play a lot of video games too. When I'm on the road, I don't play as much when I'm home because again, I'm taking care of the kids and stuff. But it's like traveling, coming home, and hanging out with the kids. And but it's
amazing what you do for your kids, isn't it? I mean, the fact that you're dancing in the Nutcracker.
Yeah.
If you ask yourself, even 2 or 3 years ago, would that ever happen? You would probably say no.
Oh, definitely. And I'm like worried. I didn't realize how much I'm in front of camera all the time, on stage all the time. I wouldn't say I'm on camera all the time. I'm on stage or in front of someone, regardless, but I'm so worried about making a fool because of her. You know, like I don't want to get out there on stage and try to do these moves that I'm supposed to do and mess up and make a fool of her, of myself, but for her. So, you know, it's a lot. It's fun though. Again, I'm hoping at the end of it, it's, you know, it'll be gratifying.
She's going to love it. Believe me, she's going to love it. But that age range from, 8 years to, what'd you say, 10 months?
10 months, yeah.
Oh, my.
Yeah, it's been a big change. Again, because it's like the first kid, it's like I'm always... I'm still am, but I'm the dad who's like going in every night, checking to make sure the baby's breathing because I'm so terrified.
We all are.
And worried about, I went around putting rubber things on every corner of the house, even like the trim around the baseboard and everything because I'm so paranoid. And, just as I started getting a little comfier because she's older and a little bit steadier on her feet, and she goes to school all day and then she has ballet practice and there's a routine. Then all of a sudden this new baby's here and now it's all about sleep training again. And, and my wife's waking up in the middle of the night to feed him and all these things again. But now we have a boy and a girl, which is fantastic. But yeah, it's like, and I'm older too. I'm 49. So I feel like in my head, I'm like, all right, I have to make at least, I'm hoping I can make it till I'm 70 because I want to see my son graduate. And these aren't things I would think about.
No, but you do. Look, I'm 72, man, okay? And so it flies by, first of all. Second of all, at 49, I always do the math and I go, gee, when he or she graduates from high school, I'll be 67.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly what I'm doing. And I didn't, it's like back before kids, I remember being like, man, if I make it to 50, I'm going to be happy, because, I've done some things and stuff. So I've been like, but now it's like, no, I have to make it to this because I want to see the kids graduate. I want to see them, see
So let's talk about
go,
that.
So.
You brought it up first, and I was going to get there, but we're there. So let's do it. You're an actor, primarily. Would you say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, again, I feel like I do more stand-up comedy and like other things at this point. But yes, I would say I'm an actor.
That's transitioned. That's changed. You weren't always doing stand-up that much.
No, not at all. Not at all. But I had to adapt because again, it's, the bummer is like I'm horrible at auditioning. And luckily I've done a bunch of movies with my buddy Kevin Smith. I've gotten offered to do movies, and I've directed a movie, but I'm saying most of it's been offers or given to me, if you want to say, but going out and audition, it's not like I'm doing TV shows for 6 months and then doing a movie and then 6 months later doing another movie. It's like the acting is pretty far spaced out. So, but yes, primarily that's what I did for the first, 15 years or so.
And for those listening who don't know who Kevin Smith is, how would you describe him and your relationship?
He's definitely my friend I grew up with we went to high school together. We grew up in the same town. He made an indie movie. A lot of people sort of know it, saying Clerks. And he brought me along with him. He wrote a part for me. But him and I are best friends. We've stayed best friends. We, again, even after besides the movies, we toured for 8 years. We were together constantly on the road doing the podcast. And then after the podcast, when we did Jay and Silent Bob Reboot many years back, we went on the road with it. Instead of putting it out in the theaters and hoping it does well in the box office, we toured with it. We'd screen the movie. Afterwards, we'd do a Q&A. We'd intro the movie, show the movie. Afterwards, we'd do a Q&A or podcast, what have you, for the movie. So we were on the road for like 3 months doing that, the Reboot Road Show. And then he did it again with Clerks, but I had my kid at that point, so I couldn't leave town for 3 months again. But anyway, yeah, we're really really close still. We were
Clerks
living,
put him on the map, put you on the map.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about your background. Where do you want to start? You had a difficult upbringing, I guess would be the easiest way to say that.
Yeah.
Talk about you and your mom and your relationship.
So she was in and out of my life. So I grew up in Highlands, New Jersey. My mom was a heroin addict and also dealt drugs. And so she would get strung out and I would live with my grandma, and then she'd get sober and I'd live with her for 2 years, and then she would get strung out again, and then I'd live with my grandma, and then I lived with another family. And that went on all the way till I was 17 and was able to move out by myself. But by that point, my mom was in jail for 8 years. She got out and she had caught AIDS. So then I moved in with her at, I don't know, I was probably 21 or so, I think. And then I took care of her for 5-6 years that she was alive until she passed.
How old was she when she passed?
She was 53.
So young lady.
Yeah.
And she got, I guess, through needles, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, yeah, from sharing, yeah. So from sharing needles, she did it. And that was something where I remember I hated drugs so much because of the situation I was brought up in, and I thought I'd never do drugs.
So before you go down that road,
yes,
tell me about your mom. She used to go into hotels and steal television sets, I read.
Yeah. So her she had many scams, but one of the things is I've told before is I remember like waking up one night in the middle of the night, I hear a bunch of voices. I go in the living room at the apartment we were living at, and there was all these, and it was back in the day too, big box TVs all over the living room, probably about 8 to 10 of them. And she just, and I like overheard, they just went to a bunch of hotels, signed up in different names, and they would rip the TVs off the wall and sell them. And then she'd also go around and steal mail. She'd make me drive, not every time, but she'd make me drive in the passenger seat. She would pull up to a mailbox, make me reach out and grab the mail from the mailbox. And then she'd go to, there was a pond in Leonardo where we grew up, and she'd sit in the car and a garbage can, and she'd go through all the mail and see if there's credit cards or any cash gifts from, hey, it's horrible too. When I think back, I was like, hey, happy birthday, sweetie, from grandpa, and there'd be like $100 bill in there, and my mom would take it. And then she would burn all the excess mail in the big metal garbage can.
And what would go through your mind as you're observing this?
A lot of times I feel like, definitely with the mail sitch, is like, I would be worried that we'd get in trouble, busted. But also, for me, it was really like all I wanted to do was get home so I can go play with my friends. Like I would just want to go home. Like she'd drag me out for hours, and I'd want to be hanging out at my buddy's house playing G.I. Joe or Star Wars. How
old were you?
I would say anywhere from 10 to 13 that I remember this.
So you knew she was doing stuff that wasn't legal?
100%.
And did you confront her?
No. I mean, I don't remember ever really like challenging her about it or anything. Like I'd say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to, like, I want to go to my buddies. I want to do this. The big thing is, and like the reason I know sort of the age is because when I was 12, there was a time I remember driving my bike. I was about to go to my buddy's house. And my mom pulled up in the car and said, hey, I need you to do me a favor. I'm like, no, I'm going to my buddies. I want to go where he just had gotten like some new toys. And she's like, I need you to do me a favor. So-and-so is down at the beach. And I knew this guy because I had an older brother who's 8 years older than me. So he was like 20. His friend was 20. So he's like, so-and-so is going to be at the beach with his uncle, and I owe him money. So, he owes me money. So give him this, and then he's going to give you money he owes me from, I lent him a while ago.
Sounds like a drug deal to me.
And I didn't know, though. I really didn't. So I'm like, oh, man. So I ride my bike to the beach. I give him this, like, big manila envelope, and he gives me cash. And 3 months later, my brother picks me up from school. And he's like, drive me. He's like, I have something to tell you. Remember meeting so-and-so a couple months back? I'm like, oh, I remember that. He's like, that was drugs, and that was an undercover cop. And, they want to charge you
Oh, my.
Yeah, they want to charge you unless your mom turns herself in. My mom knew at this point that stuff was going down, and she disappeared into New York and like was hiding out. And she called and checked in, and I told her she wound up turning herself in. That's when she went to jail for those 9 years, and caught. But she turned herself in because she didn't want me to get in trouble. But she had gotten away technically.
Wow. Where was your dad during all this time?
So I never met my dad. So I have a brother and a sister. My sister's 4 years older than me. My brother's 8 years older, and all three of us have different fathers. And none of us have met our fathers.
None of you have?
No, none of us.
And did they all go through the similar situation of the drug deals and all that stuff?
No. My brother definitely. My brother was my brother, the oldest. When my mom had my brother, he was like 6 months old, 8 months old. And my mom went to jail, so my aunt took him in to take care of him for 8 months and got attached to him and loved him and whatever. And my mom knew she couldn't take care of him, so she let my aunt adopt my brother. So my brother was raised in a different household. But I seen him because it was my grandma. So my grandma owned a house that was a duplex, and she lived in one side and my aunt lived in the other. So I would live with my grandma and my brother lived next door, but not always, only when I was with her during those times of transition there.
And you have a sister as well.
And my sister was with me most of the time, but she sometimes would be living with someone else, like her friend, when I would be living with my grandma, because my grandma had a 1-bedroom house.
Are you close with your brother and sister now?
Not at all. No. My brother I don't talk to really at all. We lost touch many, many years ago. He got married, has kids, but then he started having issues in North Carolina. He's had some issues himself with drugs and other things. And then my sister, she lives in New York now. Her and I do talk, but we're not super close. Like we talk like once a week, but it's that thing where it's like every time I talk to her, it's like, hey, I need this, I need that, and I'll help her out. And then 2 months later, she'll be like, hey, I need this and that, and I'll help her out again. But then I'll be like, look, it's been 3 years. Like, we need to make changes. Like, you need to do something different.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. It's a tough situation.
And so here's the thing. I have been in the entertainment industry a long time and have done interventions with people who have gotten into drugs. It's not a pleasant situation, needless to say. Also, the fact that you grew up around that, did you tell yourself at one point, wow, I never want to get involved with this stuff?
100%.
So how did you?
So I remember I was 21 actually. I made it to 21, never doing any drug. Don't get me wrong, I smoked some weed and I drank and stuff a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, but the other stuff I didn't want to touch, and I was around it a couple times, didn't want to. But when I was 21, I met this girl. She was way out in my head at the time. I was hanging, when I was younger, and I don't know for everyone, but I met this dude. I worked with him. I put roofs on houses. And we were buddies. We worked together. We hung out every day. He started dating this girl. Her best friend started coming around, and she was like a 10 in my eyes. I'm like, this girl will never date me. And we wind up going hanging out and hooking up. And I really did at the time. I remember clear as day. I thought this girl, it'd be like meeting like some super famous model or whatever in my head. And we wind up hanging out, and they're like, look, we have something to tell you. We've been doing this. They were doing heroin. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to be around that. 2 weeks go by, I don't talk to them, and I'm missing my friend. I see him at work, but I'm missing hanging out with him. This girl, I'm like missing hanging out with her. And so I wind up hanging out with them again once. I was like, just please don't do it around me. And they didn't. So we hung out for one weekend. We went out to the arcade and did things, whatever. But I could tell they were messed up. They weren't drinking, having fun. They were just like nodding out, dropping cigarettes on the ground. And then it was my birthday. And then I was like, hey, I want to go out and do something. They were like, no, we're just going to hang out. And I'm sitting there and I have a 6-pack and I'm drinking and they're doing their thing, watching a movie, nodding out. I was like, that doesn't look fun to me. Like, why are you guys do this? It's like, and they know, I was like, you know about my mom, you know about this. It doesn't seem fun. I don't get it. They're like, you just don't understand, man. You don't understand what it feels like. And I was like, you know what? Then I want to understand. I was like, just give me a little bit.
Oh my.
And
there you go.
So to try to relate and understand and try to show them like you're wrong, I'm going to try it and I'm going to tell you how much I hate it and I don't get it. I like I did it, and I laid with that girl on my birthday, and we cuddled, and it was like a feeling that was, you know. So then I sort of enjoyed that night, and then I was like, but I don't want to ever do it again. And then 2 weeks go by, I'm like, it's the weekend. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try it one more time. And then it was like every 2 weeks I tried it. You know, we'd do it. We'd go out and do something. We'd go to the beach, do it, and lay around and stuff. And then it became every weekend, and then it became 5 days a week, and then Is
it true the first high is the best?
Oh yeah, it was definitely. And again, it's always, well, because again, it really is that weird thing. And I say I'm not glorifying when I try to explain it, but it really is like I was laying with this person, and it sounds so goofy, but I felt like one with them, and I just felt numb and no cares in the world. And you physically, even though I kept throwing up too, but it wasn't like a throw up when you're drinking and you're like forcing it out. It's just like you literally could be talking like right now and just like, yeah, and it just comes out. But it's still, for some reason, I mean, it's just super euphoric. And I think the combination, like maybe if I had tried it by myself and like was out with my guy friend and I was throwing up in that, it would have still felt good, but not the same. But I think because I was so at the time in love with this person and laying with that person and just, it was pretty surreal.
So how long were you addicted?
So that went on. I tried to hide it for a while. I mean, it was back and forth for many
None of you
years.
guys can hide it. I love the fact when you guys,
it was. I would try to hide it. I'd be like, people, for a while, some people, because people who weren't around it and didn't know, like Kevin, for example, he never been around it. He never was exposed to that really.
So had you done the movie Clerks? No, at this point.
Yes, I had done Clerks, but it was like Clerks, Kevin was editing, and it was at Sundance and doing the stuff. It wasn't like it was out and people knew about it or talked about it really.
Right.
And then I went and did Mallrats. So I hadn't done drugs so we had done Clerks, and then I was roofing, and delivering. I was 19, I think, maybe 20 when I did Mallrats. It was soon after Mallrats when I came home from filming that I hung out, and it was my 21st birthday, and all this stuff went down. So by chasing Amy, I was strung out. I don't remember. I don't think I was addicted at that point, but I was using it like on the weekends at that point. So by Dogma, I was full on like.
What got you into rehab?
So was it before Dogma? So at one point, Kevin figured it out, and we talked about it, and we were in California.
Did he? No, wait a minute. Let me ask you.
We were in California. I know.
He figured it out. He confronted you and said, "I know something's going on," or
yeah. Like it's such a fog the years in those years, but he had found out. I think he had found out because I believe that was that I was staying at his house, and I had got this drug dealer. I had him come meet me, and I met him on the corner, and I was seen. Kevin drove by and saw me, and I think I explained to him. And plus, at this point, I kept falling asleep on his couch with lemon heads in my mouth and staying it it was full out, and I'd be nodding out in his house and things. So yeah, and then I went back home and tried to get better, and then I think we were out in California for something. Working on something. I don't remember what it was, if it was press or maybe the animated series or something. And then I was like a wreck, and they ended up bringing me to Burbank. And I think the first rehab I remember going to was Burbank. Kevin put me in Cry Help in Burbank.
I know all about Cry Help.
Yeah. So that was the first place I went, and I made it 30 days, and then I finally got out, and I was good for a few months, and then I went back home. But my mom was still alive at this point, I believe. Again, all that is such a fog.
Yeah, it becomes a mishmash.
Yeah, it really
and so
was.
How many times did you fall off the wagon and have to go back?
I mean, I know I went to at least three. I definitely 3-4 times that I got months in between and then fell off.
But after you get yourself cleaned up, I've seen that process.
In the end.
Yes, no, but you go through it. When you go to Cry Help, they dry you out, and it's painful for a few days,
yes,
right?
100%.
Okay. Why in the hell do you go back and do it again?
I don't know. At that moment, you really do tell yourself, because again, not only are you physically going through it, when you're in a place like Cry Help. But then you sit there and the days feel so long because you're not doing anything. I mean, you go to meetings
but you're sick,
and
you're
there's
throwing
groups.
up, right?
Yeah, you're sick and you're going to group and you're just sitting there and the days feel like forever. And it really like, I'm never doing this again. Not only do you not want to feel physical time,
yes,
you don't want to physically feel it, but you also don't want to go to a rehab. And because again, when you're sitting there, it'd be like, it's miserable.
And Kevin is your best friend.
Yes.
And you've known him forever. Mm-hmm. At some point, did he just walk away and say, I'm not doing this anymore?
So it was, yeah, well, he never walked away, but it was, I don't remember what time this was. It was right before Jersey Girl. And I remember at this point, his kid Harley Quinn started getting older. And he's like, I went to his house. I used to have Thanksgiving with him all the time after my mom and everything. So I used to go to his house and we'd have Thanksgiving dinner and all that. And I went to his house. I remember ringing the doorbell. It was Thanksgiving. And he came down and I was a mess. I had like a tank top on and I had like track marks and stuff. And he came down. He's like, what's up, man? I was like, happy Thanksgiving. And I was like, hey, man, you think I could come in, have some food and stuff? He's like, dude, Harley's in there and she's like, she knows what's up. We can't hide it from her anymore. Because they used to just be like, oh, Uncle Jason's sick. Mm-hmm. But now she's older. And he's like, look, I'm sorry you can't come in, dude. She can't ask questions.
How'd that make you feel?
Horrible. That really did. And I also was supposed to go do Jersey Girl, just a small scene, but he's like, dude, you have a warrant out. At this point, I had a warrant out too in New Jersey. So at one point when I was back home, I was driving up to Newark to cop drugs. We got in a car accident. And the car was okay. Well, not okay. It was a mess, but it was drivable. We drove home and on the way home, the airbag had come out. We like pushed it down. The front of the car was a wreck. We were driving home, and when we went through our small town where I lived, we were like 2 miles from my house. We got pulled over, and I had heroin on me, and I had syringes on me. So I got pulled over for deployed airbag, I always say, and I got probation. But
you got probation when you have heroin in the car and the needles?
It was like my first offense. So luckily
you
I got
are
probation.
A lucky man.
Yes. But then I left state and I was out in Cali and I skipped probation. And so then I had a warrant out for skipping probation.
So what happened then?
So then I was out here forever on probation. But that's why Kevin was like, I'm sorry, dude, we're going to be in Philly. And you have a warrant out. We can't be filming and halfway through filming, cops come, you get arrested, you know what I'm saying? So I felt horrible about that. I felt horrible I couldn't come in the house. And so like he sort of kept me at arm's length at that point and he went out to Philly and that's when I was like, I gotta like do something. And so eventually I made my way back to Jersey and I turned myself in. And I got 6 months, luckily, in rehab. Sentenced by the courts, though. If I left, it wasn't like you can leave when you want. If I left, I had to go do 4 years in jail. So,
you did 4 years?
No, I didn't have to do it. But if I left rehab, I would have to do
4 years.
So I did 6 months in rehab. And when I got out, I stayed sober 4.5 years almost.
And then you went back?
And then, I got kidney stones. They gave me a shot of Demerol.
That was it. Bingo.
And it brought it back. They gave me Vicodin to go home with. And at first I was like, it's 4 hours, and then it was like, it's 3 hours and 59 minutes. And then next thing you know, it's a year and a half later and I'm taking like 50 Narcos. They're like Vicodins a day. Just
How old are
you
at this point?
How old?
Yeah.
So that was 13. So that was 15 years ago, so I'm 34. Does that make sense?
35.
Yeah.
So now you've been doing this stuff for well over 10 years, on and off.
At that point, yeah. Yes. And so, so that went on another year and a half. And then I went in and went to a detox eventually, finally. Because at this point, I'm with my wife. I meet my wife.
And she knows the background.
We're sober. Yeah, we're sober at this point. She knows my background, but I'm like 3 years sober. So I'm like in my prime, I almost feel like it was probably like where I felt like my best because I was like working out and, I was like three years sober. But, you meet someone, we get an apartment down at the beach. And it's just me and her. I'm not going to meetings. She's in college. So she's going to school all day. And then I get the kidney stones and I'm doing the Demerol. And again, it's such a bummer because at that point I'm like, man, if I had just gone to a meeting and shared, or even shared with her, like, hey man, I'm taking these painkillers as prescribed, but I'm liking it way too much. Because then, then all of a sudden the doctor cuts it off, and my friend's like, well, I got some.
Yeah.
I got a tooth
back
pulled.
in the routine.
Yeah, and then that went on and I like sort of tried to keep it from her for about a year and a half.
Good luck. I'm sure that went well.
Yeah, and I mean, I got away with it for a little bit, and then she finally started figuring it out, and she left me, and I went into detox, and now I have 13 years and almost 5 months sober.
And what makes you finally say, I'm not doing this anymore?
Well, I mean, I honestly feel like the 6 months and the 4 years, I felt like I really did feel that way then. All different than all the other times. Like that time I felt like I really was done and I wasn't craving it. I wasn't thinking about it again. And I really wish, like, and I'm not saying for sure, but I wonder what would happen. I told the doctor, I don't want Demerol. I'm an addict. But he's like, if you want the kidney stones to pass, you can't be in pain and tighten up. So he's like, we need to give this to you for you to pass that stone. So they gave it to me. And again, it's like, if I had been going to meetings, I think I would have been different.
Are you still going to meetings?
I go to meetings, but I'm mainly Zoom meetings, and I don't go as regular as I should.
And do you feel you could be tempted if you got kidney stones again and they started giving you, why? What's different?
The kids, it's been years. I really feel different about it now. I again, don't get me wrong. I don't know. If I got the feeling, I would like to say no, but I really feel like now I would share. I feel like if I got Demerol and I was craving it or like feeling good, I feel like I would definitely tell the wife because I have so much more to lose now.
I was talking to a counselor from Cry Help, and a lot of the counselors are former drug addicts. And there was a guy who was clean for 25 years.
Oh, yeah.
And decided to try it one more time and OD'd.
Yeah.
And that's what I always worry about because I have so many friends in the industry who have gone through this.
Yeah.
And are on and off the wagon. Most of them at this point have been clean for 20 years. But I always worry about that one little temptation about, well, I'll just try it one more time.
Oh, yeah. No, it is tough. And again, the good thing is I don't feel like I've had that for quite some time, the temptation.
Is your wife a lot younger?
She is. She's 14 years younger than me. Okay. So
she's like 35.
Yeah, but she just turned 37, right? No, she turns 37. Sorry, May. Oh my God, I can't wait. Sorry, my son's birthday's February. My kid's is April.
You better get this right. You're in big trouble.
I know. It's May. May 13th. So yeah, in May she'll be 37.
Here's a question.
Yes. So
your kids are young.
Yes.
And I'm going to assume they have no idea that you went through this in your life.
No.
Do you ever bring it up?
My daughter knows that I'm allergic to alcohol. That's how we've explained it at this point.
She doesn't need to know anymore.
Yeah, she don't need to know. So she knows that much, because it's come up before. I don't remember. I think because like grandma had like for like New Year's maybe had wine or something, and she's like, "Why aren't you drinking?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm allergic." And then she's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm allergic." And we explained a little bit, and she sort of left it at that. And then I remember, as a kid, she brought up like 6 months later, she didn't forget, "You're allergic, right?" And which you would think she'd forget it, but no, she listens and hears things and remembers things a year later. But yeah, so she knows that much, and I don't think right now, she hasn't really asked for more details about it.
I don't think she needs to know more.
No.
At that point. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah,
So your wife knew what she was getting into.
Yeah.
She's dealt with the highs and lows.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're growing up and all this craziness is going on in your life, did you want to be an actor?
No, definitely not.
So Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. What Kevin does is somewhat cult-like initially. It's probably more mainstream now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So he comes to you and says, I want you to have a part in this show. But you had never, or in this movie, you had never acted, right?
No.
So what made him think and you think that you could do this?
Well, I didn't think I could do it, honestly. I just felt like I wanted to try. But I had no desire to do it except for like, oh, my buddy wrote this part for me. So for him, he just thought, he always explains, like, he thought I had a different sense of humor, a funny sense of humor, and he wondered if other, like, me and our other two friends, we all hung out at the time, all had this weird, obnoxious sense of humor, sort of. And he's like, do we just find you funny because we have similar sense of humor, or would other people find you funny? And he's like, I'm going to write you in this movie to see if people in Indy, Chicago, California, or you just Jersey funny, you know, or we're funny. So that's why he said he wrote a part, and everything in Clerks he wrote was based on me, how I acted at the age of 14, 15, 16, the years we were hanging out friends. That's how I acted. I would like run around saying snooch to the nooch and like yell things at people driving by and just silly, goofy things.
Why do you think you've caught on?
Why the characters?
Well, yeah, because this has been going on for a while now. This is not a fly-by-night deal.
Years. Yeah. No. I always say I feel like I've gotten feedback from people all these years is people always say, like, we have a friend just like you. My brother is just like you. I really feel like people can relate not only to like my character, but like all the characters, you know, they work in retail and they deal with customers. And I think that's why Clerks caught on, but also the characters, the way they talk to each other, you know, talking about, you know, I think Kevin, when he wrote it, was talking that, you know, Dante and Randall have these conversations about Star Wars, or they have conversations about giving BJs and stuff like that. And same with Jay. Jay's outside and, you know, the character smokes weed and, you know, speaks his mind and all that. And I feel like people over the years have been like, again, like, wow, man, I can relate with Dante. I can relate with Jay or I have a brother like Jay, cousin, you know, he speaks his mind. He's silly and he's goofy and obnoxious. So I really think that's why, you know, that's why I feel like the characters have caught on and people could relate with them.
So you play different characters and yet they have something that kind of connects them. Would you agree?
Well, not me. I play, what do you mean? So no, like all the characters, but yes, I feel like, again, I feel like people are like Jay. So my character is the slapsticky stoner guy outside, and I feel like people have friends like that, and
they identify,
and they identify with them. And same with Dante, who Dante and Randall are the two clerks, who deal with all these customers that are obnoxious and mean and all that stuff. And so I feel like people say they relate with Dante
because they've seen people like that experience that kind of situation.
So I mean, you know, I think that I really do think that's why over the years. And same with after that was Mallrats. You know, it's like Kevin wrote a movie about all these people hanging out in the mall and working in the mall and all that stuff.
It was a huge hit.
And, you know, people can relate with that, I feel like, too, you know. So it's just...
He's kind of struck a nerve with the viewing public, it seems like.
It's definitely back then, I feel like, you know, I mean, it's like...
He was ahead of his time, I think.
Yeah, I think it was a good, perfect timing. I feel like it's funny because it's like... Just like with the podcast, I feel like we did our podcast.
Let's talk about that. You were a pioneer in the podcast world, really.
And I mean, Kevin, you know, wanted to start the podcast and we started doing it and we did it live, which not everyone does. I know it's different, but yeah, we even did, you know, we way back started internet radio. And I feel like we would wake up in the morning and we'd be live on the internet and we'd do a radio show and then podcasts we did. And then we started going on the road with it.
How much prep did you do for those podcasts?
None at all. I mean,
so you were just talking. Did you have a topic in mind when you'd get there?
Yeah. So Kevin and I had like a structure where the first few episodes, again, this goes back to I relapsed and then got sober again. Kevin was sort of like, wow, you had all this time sober and now you're back at it and stuff. And he was very disappointed. And he was doing these podcasts. He opened up a podcast theater, Smodcastle. It sat 40 people, and he would do live podcasts at this 40-seat little black box theater. And when I first got sober, I wanted to spend time with him, and he was always there. So I would go there and hang out and watch. And I'm like, man, you always seem like you're having fun. I want to do something. And he's like, well, listen, man. He's like, I want to make sure it's only been like 3 months sober. You know, wait till you got a little more time and stuff. He's like, and then I kept coming for another month or two, and I had like 5 months. And he's like, all right, well, if you want to do a podcast, I'll do one. But I want to talk about your stuff. Like, why do you think you used? And I was like, well, I feel like I wasn't accountable to anyone. I feel like I wasn't going to meetings. I didn't have anyone I was accountable to because I was spending all my time with my wife now. But at the time, she was like a year. We've been dating, a girlfriend, 2 years.
Were you scared when you started doing these?
Oh, definitely. Because I'm like, well, I don't know how we could talk, but like, I don't mind sharing stuff, but he's like, I want you to share it. So everyone that ever listens, you're going to be accountable to them. And it was a big help. Like,
More therapy.
Cause I'd be like, I have 6 months sober on the podcast. And then I'd be in Starbucks and someone would be like, man, I love the podcast.
Really?
How many months you have sober?
No
and I'd be like,
kidding.
9 months. And they're like, oh my God. It was cool. Cause all these people like went on this journey with me. Like I have 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. So
how long do these podcasts last?
So we did them for about 8 years.
Yeah.
We did them about 8 years. We toured with them all over. So we went to Australia. We went to Ireland and London and Scotland. And it was a lot of fun. And again, it was really helpful for me, I feel like, because again, I was so terrified, not only of like, again, I didn't want to relapse again because of Kevin, disappointing him, my wife, but also like all these people are listening. Because then I started realizing not only was I was being accountable to them, like all of a sudden, like 2 years in, people come up to me and be like, dude, I want to tell you something. I was struggling, man. I got out of detox. I wanted to go use, and I was listening to the podcast, and it got me through one more day.
How does that make you feel?
It made me feel awesome,
right?
But also pressure, like, oh my God, I can't mess up. Now I'm going to disappoint this guy,
right.
you know? And
but that's great.
It really helped me. It really helped me get through the first 3, 4, 5 years. Because again, I feel like that's the toughest because everything... It's so weird when you first get sober. It's like you drive past a place and you're like, oh, you smell something and it brings back memories of, doing this in that bathroom or doing that and all these things that are weird because they're not great memories, but they still are reminders and like temptations constantly. But again, this helped because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to disappoint this guy. And I remember the first few years I'd have dreams. I'd wake up and in my dream I would drink and have to get on stage and be like, all right, everyone, I have 1 day sober now disappoint everyone. Yeah. And I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh my God, this is a dream. It didn't really happen. But it was great. So we did that. But yeah, Kevin was like, listen, man, when I'll do the podcast with you. But we're going to talk about your stuff. And it was cool because at this point, Kevin had written in a book, it was a section called Me and My Shadow. And Kevin talked about our friendship and when he first found out I was using and about me going into rehab and getting sober. So the first 8 episodes was all about Kevin talking about that portion. But then it went from like, we'd talk about where we were, like, hey, everyone, we're in Ireland. And while we were on our way here, this guy, blah, 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 and we'd tell funny stories. And then I would tell a funny story like, hey, I can laugh about it now, but here's a funny story about me using drugs. And I have 2 years sober. Then I would tell a sex story, a goofy sex story. Then we play a game at the end. So we had structure, but a lot of the stories...
You were doing it internationally was pretty darn cool.
It was awesome. It was awesome.
That was amazing. Yeah. Is there an actor that you admire? Because once again, this was never your focus. You fell into it.
Yeah, no. I mean, again, as I feel like growing up, for me, like I really liked action and comedy movies. I really liked Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, and like actions. I used to love Van Damme and Steven Seagal movies. But I want to say I admire those guys, but I'm saying I really dug their movies, and that was the type of stuff I watched. I love Vincent D'Onofrio. I think he's fantastic. But yeah, there's some people. The other thing I do, which is so much fun, is I do comic conventions sometimes. And those have been so much fun because you go to this and you'll be in the green room and it's like Vincent D'Onofrio, Danny Trejo, Bruce Campbell. And I'm sitting in William Shatner and I'm always like, even 30 years into the business, I don't never like, people walk in, they're like, hey, what's up? Hey. And I still feel like this is so surreal to me and I get shy. And
really?
I'm like, yeah.
Trejo's a trip, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, him and I are great friends at this point. Yeah. We've done like 7 movies together.
Really?
Yeah. We've done like 7 movies together. We have the same agent. And him and I just saw him and we spent time in where were we in Minnesota? So I spent a few days with him, and so yeah, he's fantastic.
He's a character.
He really is. He's great.
He called his time going to college. I remember is what
yeah,
he said.
yeah. But he was in my movie, which was fantastic. I directed my first movie.
You did?
Not too long ago. Well, I guess it was years ago now. But he was in it. I
didn't know
it
you
was
got
really
into
nice.
directing.
Yeah, it was nice because we didn't have a lot of money, and it was one of those things where I'm like, man, we're not gonna be able to get a good cast, it's like we don't have money to pay them. But when we reached out to Dean Cain, Terry Hatcher was in it, Casper Van Dien, Danny Trejo, Judd Nelson, Stan Lee.
Wow.
And like all these people were like, oh, Muse is directing his first movie, we're in. And yeah, it was really nice.
Isn't it nice that you have that kind of
it was
appreciation?
Really yeah, it blew my mind. It really was nice. So it's great.
Let's talk about your stand-up routine.
Yes.
How long have you been doing stand-up?
So I've been doing, I feel like it's been about 2 years now or
What made you decide to go that direction? Because as you know, it is not easy. But you
No.
have a following.
Yeah, no, yes.
But what do they
luckily.
expect?
I don't know if they know what to expect. I mean, I think at this point I've talked about it. Luckily is my wife pushed me to do it because I used to do it with, I'd done the podcast with Kevin, but Kevin also has done many, Evening with Kevin Smith, which is his stand-up thing, but it's like he tells stories, he answers questions, and then tells a story.
Not real stand-up.
It's not stand-up, yeah. And mine isn't exactly stand-up because mine isn't, I don't answer Q&A, I tell stories, but it's like bits of stories from me.
Who would you compare your style to? Anybody that's currently out there
no
working?
one I know,
really?
no, but it's
so
not
it's unique.
Yeah, and and that's why I do call it, and I feel like people sort of expect it because I call it J Mewes and his amusing stories.
Ah, nice.
So that's my thing, and it's like I come out and I tell a story about how, like, start off my sort of intro of how I started doing what I'm doing, my entertainer, whatever, and then go into some funny stories that have happened over the years. And I've switched it up after, I did like 20 shows. I've changed the stories up now with some of my kids, talking about how my kid, wakes me up and whatever, like just different funny stories. But it's been awesome. It's, again, luckily my wife was like, I had been on Kevin's Q&A, his Evening with Kevin Smith, and I've told a couple stories and stuff, and some of the people we worked with over the years. So the cool thing is, too, is my wife, and I didn't mention this, my wife is business partners with Kevin, and she runs the company Smodco. So she's the head of it and runs it, and she's the one who did the touring business when we toured all those years with the Get Old. Then she did all the touring with Reboot Roadshow and then the Clerks tour.
So she's got a good business head.
And she's produced the last three movies. She's Yoga Hosers, Clerks 3, and Reboot, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Nice. So she's produced the movie, she runs the company, and so she's made all these contacts. And one of the guys was like, hey, would Jay want to come do this comedy? Someone dropped out, and I have a couple of comedy clubs would he want to come do like 2 nights there? And she's like, yeah, sure. And she's like, what do you think? And so I went and did it, and it went well.
Are you headlining?
Yeah. I'm headlining.
How much time are you doing?
So I'm doing about an hour.
That's really tough.
Yeah. It's been good. And the good thing is I found this kid. He's sort of off now, but I found this kid about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. He won a contest to open for me, MC for me. And I watched him. I'm like, this kid is so funny. And I was like, I got to see if he'll come on the road with me. And I asked him, and he started coming on the road with me. And now he's opened up for Burt Kreischer like 3 times, 10,000 people. And he's so funny. He just did a special and all that. So he still features with me sometimes. Like, he'll come and do 30 minutes before me, 20 minutes. But he's been doing his own thing now.
Good for him.
But I knew it. I told him, I said, dude, I'll probably have you like 2 years, and then you're going to be off doing your own headlining. And he's funny. So, and now I have this other guy who's really funny named Jake Rubel, who now opens up and features for me.
Where'd you find him?
He was AJ's friend. AJ Wilkerson is the guy I'm talking about who was featuring before. He brought on his friend Jake to MC. So Jake would do 10 minutes, AJ would do 20 minutes, and then I would do an hour around that. Sometimes AJ would do 35 minutes, 40, whatever. And then now AJ's doing his own thing, and Jake's moved up and doing the feature. So it's been great because it's nice because we tour when I'm touring and I'm doing 5 shows, 2 shows Friday, 2 shows Saturday, and 1 show Sunday night. At some places it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But it's nice to be because I'll get an Airbnb and we'll all stay in the same Airbnb and we'll go there, and it's just nice instead of having what I've noticed is. Sometimes people will come in and be like, hey, well, I'm emceeing for you. And they'll have 4 people with you, and the green room will be half this size, and you're like, hey, what's up? So it's sort of nice to be able to tour at people you think's funny, they're funny, and you're comfortable with, while you're hanging out waiting to get on stage and stuff. But it's been great. It's really been awesome.
Sounds like it's been going great. Would you like to star in a major motion picture with, if you could pick an actor to work with, who would it be?
I would like to do I would say I'd like to definitely be on a major motion. Well, Vincent D'Onofrio. I would definitely like to be in, like, say, Daredevil, because he's the Kingpin.
Yep.
And hopefully they did another season. I'd love to be on a TV show for a season. I feel like it's something I haven't done that could be a lot of fun.
Would you want to do a character based on your life or something 180 degrees away from it?
Yeah, no, I would definitely do. It would be fun to do a Jason Mewes story. I wouldn't be against doing something similar. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I guess I still, again, I love directing. So I'm hoping to direct this is going to work out and we're going to direct again. I'm going to direct again. And then, yeah, I don't know what else is out there.
There's a lot out there for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of things again that I'd love to do. I would love to do something with my kids. There's so much. I feel like what is so crazy how things have changed now with internet. Like these YouTube video people are making millions YouTube and doing these cool things, and I would love to me and my kid watch. I let her watch on YouTube this one woman. She does art stuff. She's a mom of 2 and she does art stuff. She's safe, but and then every once in a while, she'll bring her kid on, his baby. But I'm like, man, I want to do videos with my kid. I think it'd be so much fun to sit and come up with something. I don't know if it's me and her doing art, me and her,
You've got a built-in audience.
Yeah, something.
So people would watch. And I also think they would find it interesting that here's this guy who's played this character and has had this interesting life sitting there with a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
You got to throw it up there and just see what happens.
No, definitely.
You got nothing to lose. I applaud you, sir, for everything that you have accomplished, and I can't wait to see what happens next for you. And I wish you all the luck in the world in the Nutcracker.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
because I know that can't be easy. I have 17 left feet, so I'm not good at that. But I applaud you.
Guys can all come to the show. It's coming up soon.
We look forward to it.
It's gonna be there. So that's something new that I've never done. Kevin and I are doing the Jay and Silent Bob Cruise Escu.
Tell me.
And so February 23rd, 26th, we're going to be going from Miami to Nassau, Bahamas. And Brian O'Halloran will be there, Jeff Anderson, that's Dante Randall, Jason Lee and Ethan Suplee. And there's going to be podcasts throughout the 3 days. There's going to be stand-up comedians, live music. There's going to be a movies pop-up, a bunch of stuff Escu related.
How do we find out about this? Where do we go?
cruiseescu.com. I've been posting on mine's JAYMEWES on all the social Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. Also Twitch. I stream on Twitch, which I love. I don't get to do it as much now, but I play video games, Fortnite, Call of Duty. That's twitch.tv/JMuse. Check it out.
I never got into the video game thing, but it's fascinating to me. At 49, you're still playing.
Oh, I love it. And it really is again, I only get to play an hour now every day. I used to do 4 or 5 hours a day before the other new baby came, because my kid would be at school all day. So I'd drive her to school,
come home,
get her ready, drive her to school, come home for 4 hours, just play video games. And I had I never got that many, but about 200 to 300 people would watch me every day. And you can send bits and subs and all this stuff.
Amazing.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, again, it never grew. There's people out there that have 50,000 people watching them, and it's a whole.
I just find it bizarre to watch other people play games, but I know it's huge, man.
Yeah, it really is.
It's gigantic.
And people, some people play music on Twitch. They'll live stream just them playing the piano or doing art and all sorts of things. YouTube, Twitch, all these things.
Different world.
So I'm saying
Totally
it really is.
different world.
I remember back in the day, our thing was DVDs, man. Like when Mallrats and Chasing Amy Dogma, when the DVDs, I remember I used to get like a check like 2 years later from like the DVD sales. I'm like, yeah, this is great. Thank
and
goodness.
now if you walk up to a 10-year-old and say, what's a DVD?
Yeah, they're like, what's that? Exactly. It's so interesting and different now. And some of these kids, I mean, if you look up like the top 3 YouTubers, it's like there's this one kid who's making, $30 million a year, like opening up toys. Yeah, he's got toys.
Oh yeah, I know about that kid. Yeah. He did a show on Nickelodeon, man.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I remember my kid popped on him like a couple years ago, and I remember when she was probably about 4, she grabbed the TV, and of course I was showing her something, and then another ad comes up in another show, and then all of a sudden this boy popped up, and I was like, she's like watching it for a few minutes, and then like 2 months later, I looked again and they were in a different house. And I'm like, and now all of a sudden his parents are involved.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I was
Big
like,
time.
so then I had to research it because I'm like, for them to quit, for them to show their face now, if you go to all the videos, but it said like, they quit because then he was doing so.
He's become an industry.
Now, I mean, and that was years of that. Now he's in like, his toys in Walmart. And so again, it really could change people's life. It's crazy.
It is. And you just said it. You can change people's lives.
It really can.
Unbelievable. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Marc Summers Unwraps is a production of Believe Limited, created by me, Marc Summers, and Jessica Richmond. Produced by Keith Korneluk and Jessica Richmond. Executive produced by Patrick James Lynch and Ryan Geelan. Post-production support from Joshua Sterling Bragg and Believe Limited. Don't forget to subscribe or follow the show on your favorite podcast player, and if you really love it, why don't you leave us a rating and a review? Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Marc Summers Unwraps.